All right, let's take a look at this connections problem. It's probably been a while since you've looked at a graph with lines. This says which point on the graph is a solution to the system of linear equations negative x plus 4 equals y and x minus 2 equals y. Okay, what does it mean by solution? So notice they've labeled 4 points. There's a point here, point A, a point here, point C, and a point here, point B. Now a solution to a set of linear equations, when you're a set of linear equations just means two equations for lines. And we have an equation for a line here and an equation for a line here. We want to know where those two lines would cross. That's your solution, because that's where the point they have in common is their solution. So that's what we're looking for. The problem is they gave us 3 different lines, and we have to figure out which 2 lines we're working with and which ones would be a solution. Now, one way that you can solve this problem is to go ahead and list what the points are. Now remember, when you're graphing a point, the first coordinate of your point is the x and the second is the y. The x you find by starting at 0, 0. So let's find, for example, point A. We don't go any left or right. So point A is located at 0 for our x because we didn't go left or right. That's what x tells us. But we have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. So the point A is at 0, 4. The x coordinate, the first one, tells us how far we go left or right. The y, or the second coordinate, tells us how far to go up or down. Where would point B be located? So if we start back at 0, 0, to get to B we have to go 1 to the right, so that makes our x coordinate 1, and down 1, that makes our y coordinate negative 1. So B is at the point 1, negative 1. And finally, point C. We start back at 0, 0. We would have to go 1, 2, 3 to the right, and up 1, the point 3, 1. Now, to determine which of those is a solution to our system of equations, what we want to do is take those points and plug them in, the x and the y, into each of these equations. Whichever is true in both equations, makes the equation true, is our answer. So let's try point A, the point 0, 4. Again, the first is our x and the second number is our y. Let's try it in our first equation and see if it makes the equation true. When I say try it, I mean replace all the x's with the x from our point. So this x will be 0. And replace the y's with the y from our point. So this y would be 4. And then say, is this equation true? Does the left side equal the right side? Is it true that 0 plus 4 equals 4? It is. So it works for this equation. Let's try our second equation now. Our second equation was x minus 2 equals y. Again, we're trying the point 0, 4 to see if it's a solution. So again, you replace all the x's with the 0 from our point. Replace the y with a 4. That gives us 0 minus 2 equals 4. Well, 0 minus 2, does that equal 4? No, it doesn't. It equals negative 2. So this is not a solution. So we know A is not our answer because it did not work in both equations. Let's try B to see if it's our solution. Now B was at the point 1, negative 1. So our x is 1, our y is negative 1. Let's try it in each equation. So our first equation, negative x plus y equals 4. Again, replace the x with the x from your point. So we replace the x with a 1. That had a negative in front already, so that gives us negative 1. Plus y equal, my handwriting is terrible here, plus 4, due to my bad handwriting, equals y, and our y is negative 1. Is it true that negative 1 plus 4 equals negative 1? No, negative 1 plus 4 is 3, which is not equal to negative 1. So point B did not work for our first equation. It didn't work for one of the equations, so it cannot be the solution to both of them, which is what it has to do. So our answer must be C. Let's try it out and see if it works. Okay, so try the point 3,1 in both equations. So let's see, negative x plus 4 equals y is that first equation. Again, when we're testing it, we just replace the x's with a 3 and the y's with a 1. So is it true that negative 3 plus 4 equals 1? It is. Negative 3 plus 4 is 1. Okay, so this is a yes. Now it should work in the other one, or else we have a big problem because there's no other points. Okay, again, try the point 3,1 but in our second equation. So we have x minus 2 equals y. Replace the x's with a 3 and the y's with a 1. Is 3 minus 2 equal to 1? Yes, it is. Okay, so that one worked in both equations, so we know that it is a solution because it worked for both equations. B did not work for the first equation, so it's not a solution, and A did not work for the second, so it couldn't be our solution. But C, point C, 3,1 worked in both equations, so it is a solution. So the point C is a solution to our linear system of equations that they gave us here. Okay, this again is asking to find a pair of equations that share a solution. Now notice this is a little bit different because these equations they just have x's in them, and we're also not even looking at a graph. So let's just solve each equation and decide which pair have the same solution. Okay, so we're going to use our algebra skills here. So I'm going to start with my first pair here. If I want to solve the equation 6x minus 2 equals 40, I would need to get x by itself. So I do the opposite of subtracting 2 and add 2. That leaves me with 6x here equals 42. If I divide both sides by 6, I get x is 7. Okay, let's find the solution to the second equation that was involved there. 2x plus 3 equals 8 plus x. This one's a little bit different. We have x's on both sides, so our first job is to get the x's on the same side of the equation. I'm going to move this one. It was a plus x, so if I subtract x, it will cancel here. Whatever I do on one side of the equation, I have to do on the other. So I subtract x here also. 2 minus 1 just leaves me with 1x. I still had plus 3, and that equals 8. Want to subtract 3 from both sides, and I end up with x is 5. Do they have the same solution? No, they do not. This solution was x equals 7, and this is x equals 5. That's the only solution they have. So this one is not correct. They do not share a solution. Here's my second pair. So if I tried that out, well here, this is 6x minus 2 equals 40. We know the solution to that is x equals 7 because we solved it up here. Here's our second one, so let's go ahead and solve this. Negative 3x plus 4 equals negative 2 times x minus 5. Now this one is one more step. We have parentheses. To remove those, which is what we have to do first, I would distribute the negative 2, which means to multiply everything inside there, times negative 2. Negative 2 times x is a negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 5 is a positive 10. Now we get x's on the same side. I want to move this negative 2x. So I do the opposite and add 2x. And whatever you do on one side, you have to do on the other. Negative 3x plus 2x is a negative 1x. Plus 4 equals 10. Okay. Now I need to get x by itself. So I have a plus 4 here. I would subtract 4 on both sides, and I'm left with negative x equals 6. Okay, and divide both sides by negative 1 to get rid of that negative, and I find that x is negative 6. Well, my first equation had a solution of 7. This equation has a solution negative 6. They are not the same, so this is also not my answer. They do not share a solution. Alright, we move on to the next one. Again, we know the solution to this equation is x equals 7. Let me corner things off here a little bit so we have a little more room. Okay, now let's solve this equation here. Okay, so we have x plus 2 times x minus 4 equals 34 minus 3x. We need to solve this. Again, we have parentheses, so I distribute to remove them. And I get x plus 2 times x is 2x, 2 times negative 4 is negative 8, equals 34 minus 3x. Here I have another thing added in here. Notice I have x's on the same side of the equation. I have 1 and 2. 1 plus 2 gives me 3x minus 8 equals 34 minus 3x. I want to get my x's on the same side. So here I have a minus 3x. If I add 3x, that would cancel. And whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other. So I add 3x. 3x plus 3x is 6x. So I have 6x minus 8 equals 34. I'm going to add 8 to both sides of the equation. That gives me 6x equals 42. Divide both sides by 6, and that gives me 42 divided by 6 is 7. Oh look, that one had a solution of x equals 7. Our first equation has a solution of x equals 7. They have the same solution, so this would be my answer. This pair shares a solution. I could go ahead and try this one, but since they were only accepting one answer, I know I found my answer here. They both had the same solution.